So today we're going to discuss on elements of art, and then uh, elements of art with visual art, and then we're going to try to discuss also combined arts or performance art. Let me just, before I present this, I had, before I start, I also had a mistake on doing the schedule, on our class schedule. So uh, re I did it again, and if you could check your classwork under course orientation, and then you check your study schedule, you could see um, how your class schedule changed. Kasi I kinda um, repeated February 16 and the 23rd. So there are changes. Wait lang, let me. So you can see it here. Your this is your class work. And then under course orientation, you'll see study schedule. And then you click it here. You'll go um, to Google Docs, and you will see here I removed kasi 16 and 23 was redundant. So I combined visual elements today and combined art. And on March 9, we will have a synchronous meeting. And then so forth. All right. So now, if you don't have any questions, we'll proceed to our lecture. Do you have any questions? Guys? None?
Wala naman, ma'am.
Okay. So this is elements of art according to Eastern and Western art. So you have different kinds of elements. You have form, line, shape, texture, space, color. Yeah. So you have 7 elements in all, but we're going to discuss today and the principles also of art. So form, if you remember your music, the form is in the form is the structure, uh, the beats forming into a note, and a note forming into a phrase, and a phrase forming into a composition. Uh, and all this would be your melody. The form here in visual arts can include line, shape, color, texture, and space. It is the for 3D shape of, or the 3D structure of uh, a work or the object. So the difference between form and the shape is that the shape is a 2D, so you have different kinds of shapes, right? Um, you have you have rectangle, square, circle, a star, and etc. So form naman is the 3D counterpart. So you have uh, a cube, a box, a sphere, a cone, a pyramid. So that is your form. And then line, you have different kinds of line. So line quality is you have the bold, thin, smooth, curvilinear, rectilinear, organic, etc. So the different kinds of line is according is the different kinds of line used according to the person. So you have different kinds of line. Bold, for example, um, can indicate firmness, aggressiveness, and thin um, could indicate sensitivity or um, mm, very brittle like. And then you have rough, you have smooth lines, you have organic lines. So there are different kinds of line that could mean or symbolize different things. But mainly we use line as a basic uh, form or element to create our work. So for example, this one, a cave drawing of a lion uh, by way before the people from way before our ancestors or um, the ancient people. This is a cave drawing from dated 35,000 BCE, and it is located in Chauvet Cave, France. And if you could see here how line can represent, can bring emphasis, the bold lines can give emphasis and also an attitude to certain kinds of lions, while some can look like a bit faded and stuff. So, ayan. And lines are very also um, important symbol or important are very important in the Chinese painting, where a line could be a form of expression. So if you could see it here, um, the line, the stroke is uh, just one or two, and the stroke is very delicate, concise, or precise, and that is the art form in the Chinese. So, moreover, the plum blossom is an important symbol of the Chinese culture. It is called friend of winter that represents the value of endurance. So, the fragrance of the plum blossom comes from the bitterness and the coldness. And, and it also symbolizes the depth of experience, growing in inner strength, and unyielding courage. So that's why plum blossom is very important in Chinese culture. So this is calligraphy by Li Fanyin. And then you also have a sample from the Ottoman Empire. Um, Islamic art from Istanbul, Turkey. This is called Tugra of Sultan Sulaiman the Magnificent. So if you could see here how lines are made, how lines are very unique to this artwork. And then lines can also express expression or show expression. This is etching. Etching is when you uh, get a piece of wood or a metal and then you scrape it or you scratch it. That is what you call etching. And then you form a figure or a drawing into it. So this is from Rembrandt during the Baroque time in 1630. So if you could see his expression with just using lines. And then this is another artwork. This is painted chalk on a painted wall in a Museum of Modern Art in New York, USA by Sol Levitt. It makes an interesting piece. And another, how lines are important. This is another kind of sculpture or an installation by Sophie Pitch in Cambodia. This is made by rattan, wire, and dye. This is entitled Buddha. It is amazing, right? And then you also have the shape. Shape could be is two-dimensional, but it could be geometric and organic. Geometric meaning you count it by the number of sides, meaning if you remember your math, they are your polygons. So square, triangle, what else? Triangle, circle, hexagon, etc. And your organic lines are those that is not mathematical in nature and that they are naturally occurring, just like your caves, your trees, your um, face, ganon. Those are organic lines. Or the shape of the body, the what else? The mountains. Those are organic lines. And then shape could also have a symbolism in it. Like circle could be could signify eternal. A triangle or a triangle could signify a pyramid or the structure of society. A box could signify strength or a structure or a house, for example. So that is the symbolism of the shape. And then examples of how a shape is important or can signify or symbolize is a mandala. A mandala is a Buddhist circular symbol. It for them, the Buddhist symbol, the circle symbolizes the universe and how it is circular and or the life is never ending. And then um, on the sides, on the mandala, there are different kinds of symbols on them. Pero in this mandala, you have the Vasudhara, sorry. The Vasudhara she is a goddess with 6 arms, and then from the center of her arms are the wealth and the well-being flows. So this mandala is made of silver and gilt copper. This is made in 19th century. And another artwork that uses a lot of shapes.
Oh,
Memory, please mute yourself. Sorry, Matthew. Please mute yourself. And then you also have Matthew. Right, you're muted. So, Gustav Klimt, you have the Kiss. This is oil and canvas and painted in gold leaf. So, if you could see how the shapes are all over this painting, but it makes a very beautiful and unique painting as well. And you also have Icarus. So if you don't know Icarus, Icarus is a character from the Greek mythology that is often represented in art. So if you don't know the story of Icarus, Icarus has a father who gave him wings, which was made out of wax. So the feathers are made of wax. And then the father of Icarus told him not to fly too high or low. But Icarus was so curious about the sun, so he flew too close to the sun, and the sun melted his feathers or his wings that are made of wax. So, since the wax was melted, Icarus fell down to the sea and he drowned. So, that was the story of Icarus. But this painting is titled Icarus and was made by Henry Matisse, and it was made out of paper cutout. If you're asking me why this is art, it is art because they say it's art. Because it's signed as with an artist. See? Anyway, this is Henry Matisse in his studio, um, enjoying paper cutting. And then you also have a Phoenix Hall in Kyoto, Japan. This is a Buddhist temple. So the phoenix is also very significant in Buddhism. So the shape of the hall represents the phoenix bird with 2 wings and a tail. So the phoenix represents fire, sun, justice, obedience, fidelity, and the southern star constellations. So this is what it looks like, the Phoenix Hall. And it was completed in 1052, very long ago. And you also have form. So form is a three-dimensional um, element. And this is mostly associated with culture, sculpture. You also have geometric and organic forms, but geometric are, like I said, um, those who are that are polygons, but you can calculate them mathematically, like a cube, sphere, cone, pyramid, uh, what else? Rectangle. I know a box. So a cylinder also. Organic forms are those that are natural forms. So you have, um, for example, the tree, the best example, a tree, a bird. Um, what else are the body, for example, is also an organic form. And then you also have closed and open form. When you say closed, it is uh, closed. There's no opening. When it's open, it's very free. Later, I will show you examples. So, sorry. In the drawing and painting, you have also illusion of a three-dimensional form. So, um, for example, um, a face, for example, is flat. When you draw it, it is flat, divides flat on paper, but it looks three-dimensional because of the light and shadow. So the light and shadow, which is the value and the tone, would give illusion to the form that it is three-dimensional. So this is an example of organic form, although the organic here is not being natural, but it's organic because it's not geometric. So the vessel in the form of an elephant with a rider in Thailand. This is an earthenware with underglazed iron brown. And then this is a bird in space by Constantine Brancusi. And you also have this one by, this is a free form by Frank Gehry. This is the Guggenheim Museum in Spain. And then you also have this one, an organic form by Georgia O'Keeffe. This is the white trumpet flower, and it is in oil and canvas. So that is your form. Do you have any questions so far?
No problem.
Okay. And then you also have space. So the space is the area within and around the artwork. So if, for example, this is your artwork with my notebook. So if there is a picture here that is space, that is the positive space, and then surrounding it is the negative space. But the whole area is also called space. So the area within and around the artwork is called space. So pag 2D, there are different kinds of spaces. When a space is 2D, two-dimensional, there is an illusion of space where you where there the depth is the depth of the figures, or the figure, and the figure is because there is the figure and the ground, and that and the principle behind is there is element of perspective, or the principle of perspective, and the perspective is what gives the artwork depth, or an illusion of space. And then 3D, when a 3D naman, 3D space, there is called a sculptural space, wherein an object is included in the object. The sculpture resides in a space, and the space around the object is also a space. And then when in architecture naman, the space here is um, correlated or in relationship to the element of time. So architecture kasi it is very relevant um, to the times most of the time, and at the same time it can surpass through years. So that is why there is an element of time. And at the same time, with architecture, there is, and sometimes in sculptural, there is the need to move uh, a figure. So that's why the space can have also an element of time, or is in relationship with time. So, ayan. So in that way, when an artwork is very specific in time or in location, it is called site specific at the same time. So apart from calligraphy, Chinese painters like their landscape painting. So they uh, went also into a romantic era, but they experienced romanticism first before everything else, before the Westerners, and that they painted landscapes a lot more than the Westerners. Before the Westerners believe before the Westerners started painting landscape. So landscape painting, but landscape painting remains the highest form of Chinese painting until today, and um, that in Northern Song period 907 to 1127, it is called the Great Age of Chinese Landscape. So this work is by Fan Quan. It is called Travelers Among Mountains and Streams. This is in hanging scroll, and um, when you say hanging scroll, it is the painting is in a scroll, so it is twisted, and then when you you open the scroll up to down, it will reveal different kinds of things. That is a hanging scroll. And then you have this one, The Element of Depth or Perspective by Rafael Sanjo, School of Athens. This is a fresco painting and made in 1509 to 1511. When you say fresco, it's different from oil kasi when you say fresco, it is plaster and then you put pigments on it. And you're going to or sometimes cement, and then you paint using that, meaning the wall itself has its color, and it is more durable than oil and much more harder because the color will stay, and then it also looks flat at the same time. It is flat, but it doesn't look flat at the same time. So um, this is Rafael Sancho Italian restaurant, and this is currently in Vatican, Rome. And this is the most one of the most amazing deaf painting in during that time. So it also has a 1 point perspective. So if you can see it here, this is where the point or the depth vanish, or there is a parang the location or the um parang may nag-vanish dito. I mean, as it goes farther away, the images becomes hazy. This part here becomes hazy, more neutral or more daisy. So that's why you call it vanishing point. Yeah. And you also have positive and negative space. So the positive space is this one, and the negative space is around it. So this is Donald Judd, entitled Brass and Plexiglass in 1969. And another is this one by at by Itsukoshima Tori. This is a Shinto Gate, and this is like a gateway to the other world. That's what they believe in. So this is another uh, uh, air architecture that uses space. And then this is another. This is in Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, France. This is the view of the nave. It has Gothic architecture. Gothic meaning it has high walls, high ceilings pala, high ceilings, not walls. Walls doesn't go high, but ceiling does. So this is high ceilings. So Gothic architecture. And then also this is uh, a installation by Yayoi Kusama. This is called Fireflies on the Water. It is an installation of lights, mirrors, plexiglass, and water in 2012. So, ayan. Ang ganda, no? So that is how you use space and how you can make make a room so small become big. Ayan. And then color. Color has physical properties. Physical properties of color is called hue. And then the degree of lightness and darkness is called value. And saturation is the brightness and dullness of color. So color actually is a phenomenon of light. So it's what we see when light enters the eye and there is a chemical reaction wherein the light would be processed by the eye to the brain, and the signals would transmit, and then uh, the data would register to be as color. So that is color. And but when you say hue, that is the color itself, red, blue, green. And then value is the relative degree of lightness, darkness of color. And then saturation is the brightness or dullness of color. So color combinations are often cultural and can be connected to certain periods or styles. So for example, red in Chinese could be a luck, and then white could mean purity or one's wedding. Um, Innocence also. Um, Green, red, violet maybe also could be connected with Christmas, for example, or red could also be connected with Christmas. Orange could be collected for Halloween, or red could also be could symbolize also um, war, for example. So color combinations can sometimes be cultural, and then color could also be a form of symbolism. Sorry, it's getting dark. So, ayan. And then, if you could see it here, the painting of cobalt blue in the porcelain body. So this is a jar, Chinese jar from the Ming Dynasty. It's called Jar of a Dragon, and China has a very important development of, or as a very important, uh, is very important in the development of ceramics in the world. They started with the importation and trading of ceramics, and they particularly was famous for using porcelain. And the design of blue and white was very popular, especially when in the Western era, in the Western side of the world, they began to people use it to symbolize wealth and such. Pero in the Chinese, it's just like a regular vase, which is weird. Anyway, Chinese dragon is also a spiritual and cultural symbol that represents prosperity and good luck. Matthew, what is wrong?
Walang po, wala po. Ano lang na wait lang, brain.
What?
Ah, wala po, nakahinga lang ko, nakahinga.
Okay.
Oo, continue lang po.
Okay. So, okay. Color could also look good with contrast. Uh, for example, here, see how the saturation is very low here, and this is very saturated, and so the high contrast, the dark and the low contrast, and the dull and the bright contrast could create mystery and drama to the painting. So this is a Hindu painting. It's called The Lovers Radha and Krishna in the Fallen Grove. And then you also have the effects of natural light and color. So you have Claude Monet. Uh, he is during his Impressionism style or period. This is in 1888 to 1891. So you could see how the natural light of color can affect a certain subject or certain subjects or even the same subjects. And then it could also symbolize, color can also symbolize um, sadness, for instance, just like this one by Pablo Picasso, the oil guitarist. This is oil on panel and was made in 1903 to 1904. So it looks sad, right? And then at the same time, distilled, think that color could also represent universality. So harmony, purity, and truth. So you have your primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. So this is made by Piet Mondrian. And then you also have this by Anish Kapoor. He is Indian British contemporary. This is an installation in Argentina. Argentina, sorry, nabulol ako. Installation in Argentina. So this picture represents the displacement of people around the world. So the blue is the tractor and the red is the dirt. So the red represents the people or everything represents the how people or refugees are being displaced around the world. And then light is actually not a element, but you could also add it to one of the elements. So light could often be used to create a sense of naturalism and can add drama and contrast because you cannot have color without light, texture without light, and other things. You cannot see without light, so light is also very important. So in photography, although in photography, light is very important. It's one of the key elements. Basically because photography relies on light for the production of image. So, but in sculpture, you need also light to help show the form of the image. So, um, yun. Sorry. Uh, so this is Caravaggio. The painting is called Caravaggio. The painting is made by Caravaggio, and it is entitled "The Calling of Saint Matthew," oil on canvas. And then this is another this another um, painting is by Gerard Retcher, Two Candles, Oil on Canvas. And then this is Fan Ho, Hong Kong photographer, afternoon chat photography. So if you could see how light is illuminating the subjects or the unknown subjects. And then this is also a relief, a bas relief. So this is Akhenaten, Nefertiti, and the daughters. And then you also have, this one is illuminated by light, right? But at the same time, Nefertiti and Akhenaten worship the only god Aten, which is the sun. The sun is their god. And then Flavin, this is a fluorescent light installation. And another, this one, this is a light and sound installation. And another, this is in Saint Sante Chapelle, Paris, France. So if you can see, this is also Gothic, but this time with stained glass. And then in sculpture naman, in Buddhism, you have the Buddha, the Enlightened One. And then you also have texture. Texture involves touch. It could be smooth, rough, sticky, soft, fuzzy, slick, etc. So unlike light that or colors, also colors that requires the sense of sight, texture requires the sense of touch, sometimes sight. Kasi in 2D or even in 3D, there is an illusion of texture, meaning the image could look like fuzzy or soft, but or very smooth or very rough, pero when you touch it, it's very smooth. So that is texture. Pero this is a mixed media. It looks rough, but when you touch it, it is rough because um, it is made by oil paint, wood, and Mexican pottery. And this is entitled The Sea by Julian Snabel. And you also have this one by Muret Offenheim. So object. So this is called Breakfast in Fur. 19. This is made in 1936. This is weird. Have you imagined like drinking water from a fur? It would absorb the water, right? I don't know. But it's weird. At least I haven't experienced having a beard, so I don't know what it's like drinking something furry. So again. This is also oil on canvas. If you could see here how things, for example, this one looks very smooth. And some textures look very rough. For example, like this one. But if you could see, it is painted. See the paintbrush or the paint marks, you know. So, ayan. And then you also have this one. This has a smooth texture, but it was made to look quite broken. So this is the Guanware vase. This is made in Southern Song Dynasty in China. So this is in 12th century vase. Ganda, no? So language or design are the principles, language of design. So we're going through the principles now. So in order to make an artwork or a cohesive artwork, you need to balance or arrange your elements in a very good composition. So your composition is the organization or the arrangement of forms in a work of art. So you have different kinds of elements, and the possibilities are endless. You could arrange it to the top, to this object to the top, to the bottom, to the side, to the right, the left or right. And it also depends on time, place, and what kind of materials you're going to put. And also you as artists, what you feel of putting your works, what you want to put in your works or your compositions. But the following are principles on how to arrange your work. So balance. Balance is the distribution of the visual weight. So visual weight, like it has, it's not the weight per se. So, but rather it is the um, what when you see it, does it look like it's heavier on the left side or the right side or the top of the bottom? So uh, when you say balance, it doesn't need to be equal in weight, but rather it needs, but rather the balance here is um, how you can arrange your weight. So, or how you distribute the weight, the visual weight. So when you say symmetrical imbalance, it means that the weight are equal from left to right or top to bottom. That is symmetrical. When you say asymmetrical naman, it's the opposite of symmetrical because the weight could be more heavier than the one side and lighter on the other side. But it would still look balanced even if it's asymmetrical. And then when you say radial balance, if you remember your mandala, so the radial balance is when the elements are around in a form of a circle and that there is a central point that is similar. So that is your radial balance. So an, ex- an example of symmetrical balance is this one, The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci. Sorry. Oops. So if you cut this in half, you could see that um, the left side mirrors the other side, except for this, for the people. But the left side mirrors the right side. And also this one, the Partinon, this is a temple for, if I'm right, the gods or Athena. And then this was completed in 432 by Kinos and Callicrates. So the Partinon is uh, designed to be symmetrically balanced. When you cut it in half, it would um, it would mirror one side to the other side. So ayan. This is this is the diagram. So this is the half elevation of the Partinon, and this is the half section, the Theraportico. This is another temple. So ayun. And then you have the radial balance. Like I said, one example is the mandala. But in this case, this looks like a mandala, but uh, it's not just a mandala, but it is a stained glass window. This is in Chartres Cathedral in France. and it is a Gothic window. And then you also have this one. This is a brass, wire, and wood sculpture by Alexander Calder. So if you cut this in half, it would be symmetrical, right? And then you also have this one. This is one of the great examples of asymmetrical balance. So one, if you cut this in half, this one is more weighted than on the right side. So it's asymmetrical imbalance. And then another one, this one is also asymmetrical imbalance. This is a painting by Edgar Degas. The rehearsal of ballet on stage. This was made by mixed media. So ayan. And you also have pattern or rhythm. So in order to make rhythm, you have to have pattern, which is a repetition of formal elements, symbols, or objects all over a work of art. So repetition. So you have this one. This is a locker box with pommel scroll design in the late 14th century. This is either during the Yuan or the Ming Dynasty in China. And then we also have this one by Takashi Murakami. So this is designed naman in a lithograph. So, ganda no? And then you also have this one. The repetitive pattern here is here, the cloth. Let's see. There is a pattern here, and here, and here. So the fleur de lis, this is a French for lily flower. It is a symbol used for the French crown as well as the Virgin Mary. And this is the portrait of Louis the Fourth, the sixth, the 16th, the 14th, the 14th. So this is a portrait of King Louis the 14th. And then you also have this one by Ai Weiwei, safe passage installation. So this one, these are actually life jackets. So this is put in the Berlin, Germany with 1400 or 14,000 refugee life jackets. And then you also have movement. So movement is very important. In visual art, movement could be like an illusion. So the path the viewer eyes takes through the work of art, often to focal areas. Such movement can be directed along lines, edges, shapes, and color within the work of art. Visual movement can also involve real or implied motion. So when you say real, it's the real thing, like it's actually moving. When you say implied, it only looks like it's moving, but it's not really moving. So examples are sea in a picture. The waves in a picture might look like moving, but it's actually not because it's just a picture. So, but the movement can also be, yeah, and this is also another example of an implied. So this is a Buddhist, no, Hindu, I'm sorry, a Hindu sculpture by Shiva. So Shiva is a Hindu god. Uh, he is his role is the creator, the preserver, and the destroyer of the universe. And he has his hands that goes around, round and round and round. So for the Indian or the Hindus, uh, the Shiva's dance uh, for the arms going round and round is the symbolism of never-ending cycle of time. So this is the dance of Shiva. So ayan. And then the hair is also very interesting here. This is the hair kasi the energy of his dance daw makes his hair fly to the sides. So in that way, it also symbolizes for the Hindus uh, that it is how you get salvation. So this was made in 11th century in India Chola period, and it is made in copper alloy. And another thing that shows what we call it um, movement is this one. This is Edward Muybridge. Uh, no, I mean he is the artist. He's a British photographer uh, who took a series of photos of a horse. So this is a horse in motion, and it is painted, no, not printed on silver print photographs. So ayan. It it doesn't really move, but you could see how the horse moves through a series of photographs. And another picture is by this one by Giacomo Bella. This is titled Dynamism of a Dog on a Leash in 1912. This is made in oil and canvas, and you could actually see how dog is wagging its tail and how impossibly the feet is like walking like that, and also the woman is walking that fast as well. And then another thing, this is a building. This is a building by Frank Gehry, Dancing House. This is in Prague, Czech Republic. This is a Canadian American postmodern architect. Uh, you could see how the dancing house is called the dancing house. It is not really moving, but it looks like it's moving because of the design of the building. So that is why it's called a dancing house. Oh, and one thing, it's done like that because it was destroyed by this was originally a house, and it was destroyed by the U.S. bombing in Prague in 1945. And then you also have this one, The Red Lily Pads by Alexander Calder. This is painted sheet metal and with metal rods. And this was made in the Guggenheim Museum in New York City, USA. So this actually moves, though you could, in the picture, you cannot see that it moves. So, ayan. And then rhythm. Oh, rhythm is created when one more elements of design are used repeatedly to create a feeling of organized movement. So, but rhythm, the variety is essential. So, unlike pattern, rhythm needs a different kinds of similar elements. Similar elements, hindi the same elements. Pag pattern, the elements are the same, but rhythm, the elements are uh, varied but similar. So you have this by Marshall Duchamp. This is the nude descending on the staircase. So if you could see how the figure is slowly um, walking downwards, but if you could also see how there are but um, similar strokes, and it creates a human uniformity of the design. And then you also have this one by uh, in Nepal naman. This is Hinduism. Uh, this is called the fragment of Mother Goddess Matrika. This is Varahi, Kaumari, and Chamunda. So the Matrikas, or the group of mother goddesses, are personified powers of different divine beings in Hinduism. So Varahi is the god of death, and then Kaumari, this one, is the god of war, and then Chamunda, sorry, has 3 eyes and holds a sword and trident. So, ayan, scary. But I don't believe they're true, so okay lang. So another one is this one naman. There is rhythm here. There is a pattern, but if you could see that the patterns are not exactly the same. So again, this is the Chrysler Building by William Van Allen in New York City. And then you also have contrast. So when you say contrast, my mom's are listening. Contrast naman is the use of opposite elements, light versus dark colors, or rough versus smooth, large versus small. So the contrast, the difference of elements or the opposite elements can create visual interest, excitement, and drama. It can also involve concepts that could be related to contradiction and opposing ideas. So, for example, this one, this is ink on Japanese paper by Yuchi. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. Um, but it is called kanzan. So kanzan is means cold mountain. So for them, this is poetry, and it has also inspired many uh, artists and writers. If you could see here, the idea here is how the script was made. So, ayan. I don't exactly know why they call it a poetry, but that is calligraphy for them. It's not just the beautiful calligraphy for the Chinese and Japanese. It's not just the beautiful writing, but rather also how you write it and how your writing can evoke certain kind of emotions. So, ayan, or inspired other people to write it in a different way. Kasi their characters, the Chinese, Japanese, and the Korean characters have when you write it differently, because it's kind of pictographic. So if you're going to write it differently, parang one stroke lang, you changed one stroke from a character, it would mean differently. It will sound differently. So here, apparently I'm missing something na I don't know that if you change it something, it would become differently. But anyway, this is Kanzan, Cold Mountain, and it inspired many artists and writers to do the same, to be, more expressionist in making their calligraphy. And also this one is a photogram. So a photogram is a photographic image made without a camera. So this is made by placing objects directly into a light sensitive material, for example, photographic paper, and then exposing it to lights. So this is like your x-rays. So ayan. And then you call it rayograph. Manually call it rayograph itself. So this is what you call. This is a result of a contrast. The black and white contrast uh, is very distinct, and it shows how uh, objects can be emphasized, and also it has some kind of depth on it. I mean, could be a spring, this could be a, I don't know what it is, but could be a glass, and this could be a piece of paper, and this could be thumbtacks. So I am. Another example of a popular image. This is a Andy Warhol print during the pop art period. This is Marilyn Monroe, and this is made in screen print on paper. So if you can see how the contrast of the yellow and the blue-green can emphasize the artwork or the figure and make it also very interesting. And then you could also see here the dark color of the pipe against the very neutral cream background. So it creates emphasis on the pipe, which is particular to this work of art because this is Larry Magritte, The Treachery of Images. He says that Sisines pase une pipe, meaning this is not a pipe. It looks like a pipe, but it's not a pipe itself because it is just a picture of a pipe. So I am. And then you also have emphasis. So just like contrast, it helps. There are other for contrast is not the only way to give out emphasis, but emphasis is another principle that aims to catch the viewer's attention. And so emphasis is that when you as an artist will make one area stand out to create a focal point. So the emphasis will be, or the object that is the focal point will be highlighted. And it's the first thing that a viewer or a reader would see, or the audience would see when you look at the work of art. For example, this one. There is an emphasis on this part here, right? And then this one here. So the contrast and the dull and the light colors gave out the emphasis here. So everything is dark and muddy and brownish compared to this one, the white and the yellow, that signifies innocence. So a little something about this painting is that this was painted by Francis Goya, uh, because in inspiration on the 3rd of May, where Spanish freedom fighters um, were rounded up by the French, and well, they slaughtered them, even the innocent. So, and then another for the emphasis, you could use also color. So, for example, this one, the Pink Man on Tour number 6. Um, you could see how the reddish or the pink color could create a very visual effect or great emphasis against the yellow, green, and blue or the cool backgrounds. So I am. Do you have any more questions, guys?
Noon naman po.
Wala naman, ma'am.
Kaya pa ba?
Kaya ko po.
Okay, let's have a break. Although kaya niyo pa, ako, I have to have a break. Let's have a break for 5 minutes lang. Ready pa, ma'am. Okay, let's have a break for 5 minutes to go to the toilet, to drink water and stuff. All right? Wait lang. Okay. Hi, guys. I'm back.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
Hello, ma'am.
Before I start, so wait lang. Let me present. So this is your classwork, and so we're going to here in combined arts. We're going to watch and also performance art. But before that, um, let's go on to your plate. So I'm going to require you to, um, this is for next week. Next week, March 23. Oh no, March 16 is uh, is asynchronous, and this would be used in making your plate. And also to watch some videos. So elements plate. The question is, why are elements in art important? So you could, just the same as before, you can choose any art form as an answer. You could uh, give literary form, essay, short story, poetry, um, and then you could also do visual, and then auditory. You could do music, and then or a combination of all these three. So, but this should be in video format, MP4, 721 minutes max. So, but the thing is, you have to substitute your answer with any kind of abstract idea. For example, love, faith, trust, hope, loss, peace, feminism, communism, etc. Like a visual or a literary metaphor. So, one example I can give you. So, you cannot, since I'm giving this to you, you cannot use it anymore. All right. So, um, for example, sinigang. Although I don't like sinigang, but okay. So, I put the ingredients. I put ingredients of sinigang one by one, and then without this ingredients, art would be there would be no artwork. Ganon. So, ayun lang. Gets nyo ba? I would make a video putting the...
Gets naman, ma'am.
Okay. So, meaning you cannot use the sinigang anymore or cooking anymore. Ayun. So, and then you also have to put a short description of the artwork in the comments section, like explaining why did you use uh, the idea of, for example, love for this, or for my part, sinigang. Why did I use sinigang uh, to substitute my answer? So for me, I couldn't, for example, why are the elements in art important? And then I substitute it with sinigang. So I cannot make sinigang without without the ingredients. I cannot make sinigang. So that's it. Uh, Therefore, without without ingredients or without elements in art, there would be no art. So, ganun lang. Ganun lang kasimple. Do you understand?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay. So, you cannot only use, you could be creative, huh? For other people, there some of my students made a music video, some of them dance, some of them make a short story, anything, or a poem, a poetry. So you could do anything. All right. All right, guys. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So wait lang, hanapin ko lang. Saan na ba yung literary? Okay. Ito. So, okay. So, can you see my screen?
Yes po, ma'am.
So, elements of literature and the combined arts. So, at present, not all written works can be considered literature. So, but a work could be a literary work. But before to understand a literary work, we have to understand first what are the important elements of literature. So, literature is just not language. So, but you have to bear this objective in mind. So, the important elements of literature are emotional appeal, intellectual appeal, and the humanistic value. When you say emotional appeal, it is attained when the reader is emotionally moved or touched by any literary work of art. So, for example, anyone care to read this example? Yes, Joaquin.
Emotional appeal is attained when the reader is emotionally moved or touched by any literary work like How Do I Love Tea? Let me count the ways. I love tea to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach when feeling out of sight for the ends of being an ideal grace. From Elizabeth B. Browning, How Do I Love Tea?
Okay, thank you. So, if you could see this passage here, how do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach when feeling out of sight, for the ends of being an ideal grace. So that is, there is love, there is an emotion there. So it is literary. And then you also have um, in another example by Rizal from his novels Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. Sorry. mahirap siya. Mahirap siya i-pronounce. El Filibusterismo. Like years of learning Noli Me Tangere and El nabubulol pa rin ako. El Filibusterismo. Okay, ayun. So, Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo are another example of intellectual appeal naman. Kasi it appeals to the logic or the conscious mind. So it has philosophical ideas that makes you think, this is a great idea, or oh no, this is not a great idea, or something like that. It makes you think. So, for example, this is Simon to Basilio. Don't you realize that it is Eustace's life which is not consecrated to a great idea? It is a stone wasted in the fields without becoming part of any edifice. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? So, he is saying na the life that he has during that time is not great kasi it is just like being a slave to the friars and stuff without even acknowledging the the efforts. So ganon. And then humanistic value naman can be attained in a literary work um, when a work gives out or uh, makes the reader find makes the readers think about their life, how to make better of their life and such. So, um, for example, this one. Find faults with things that are not native customs and living. Food and dress were it not for his brown skin, you'd think he was foreign and born somewhere else. So this phrase here, it has a humanistic value in a sense that it makes you think na um, yung mata pobre is kahit mata pobre yung tao, he still has brown skin. Just like a certain politician out there, for example. He has brown skin, pero the custom, how he lives, how he dresses, how he eats, makes you think that he is foreign and born for something else, somewhere else. So, ganun. And then, another one, this is Guy Maupassant's The Necklace. It also has a good humanistic value in a sense na it needs to it gives the advantage of the individual to lead to self-understanding and a clearer outlook in life. So, for example, he says here in The Necklace, what would happen if she had never lost those jewels? Who knows? Who knows how strange life is? How fickle, how little is needed to ruin or to save. So, ayun. What if hindi na happen na wala daw yung necklace? And then, can anyone read this? This is another humanistic value. This phrase lang. Yes, Catherine.
Okay. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, so that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life.
Ayan. So what does it mean? God so loved the world for you that he gave his only begotten Son. Well, it says literally what it says has to say. And then you also have different classification of literature. So you have escape literature, interpretive literature. So when you say escape literature, it is written for entertainment purposes. So it helps us pass the time, and it's more on fiction. It's more about temporarily forgetting our troubles, and you only read it for pleasure. And then you also have interpretative literature, which is written to broaden and sharpen our awareness in life. So, ayun, it is pleasure plus understanding. So, ayan. And then you also have different kinds of uses of literature. Uh, you have the moralizing literature and the propaganda literature, the psychological literature. Okay. So, moralizing literature. The purpose of moralizing literature, from the word moralizing, is to present moral values for the reader to understand and appreciate moral. So, who wants to read the monkey's point of view? Guys? Wala? Okay. So, the monkey's point of view. 3 monkeys sat on a coconut tree, discussing things as they said to be. Said one to the others, "Now listen, you two. There's a certain rumor that can't be true. That man descended from our noble race. The very idea, its very disgrace. Its desire disgrace. No monkey ever deserted his wife, starved his children, and ruined their lives. And you never known a mother monk to leave her baby with others to bunk, or pass them on from one to another, till they hardly know who is their mother. And another thing, you will never see a monk build a fence round a coconut tree and let the coconut go to the waste, forbidding all the monk to the taste. Starvation would force you to steal from me. Besides, what monk would smoke a pipe and burn the trees, pollute his hair and kill himself? Here's another thing a monk won't do: go out at night and get a stew, or use his gun or club or knife to take some other monkey's life. Yes, man descended the ordinary cuss, but brother, he didn't descend from us. So, what do you think this passage mean, or this poetry mean, guys? Hello, hello.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you think this passage mean? Are you there? So it means that uh, a monkey, a monkey, a man is not descended daw for the monkey, kasi they are the man could go stealing and other things. So man is not thou a monkey. And then you also have the propaganda literature. This kind of literature is found not only in history books, but on advertising and marketing books. So, and then you also have psychological continuum of the individual. So it's like it's one of those self-help books. So that is the psychological continuum. Sometimes also it has a therapeutic value. Anyone wants to read Don't Quit? Guys? Okay, Jose.
Is this okay? Uh, don't quit when things go wrong, as they sometimes will. When the road you're trudging seems all uphill. When the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile but you have to sigh. When care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Life is queer with its twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learns, and many a person turns about when they might have won had they stuck it out. Don't give up though the pace seems slow. You may succeed with another blow. Often the struggler has given up when he might have captured the victor's cup, and he learned too late when the night came down how close he was to the golden crown. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of the clouds of doubt, and you never can tell how close you are. It may be near when it seems afar. So stick to the fight when your hardest hit. It's when things seem worst that you mustn't quit.
Okay,
Anonymous.
thank you. So it's a beautiful poem. It's about Don't Quit, and it's one of the most beautiful therapeutic poems out there. How about Kyle? Can you read I Am Somebody? Kyle, are you there? Is my connection bad?
Fine, ma'am.
It's fine. All right. So let's skip I Am Somebody. Nobody wants to read it. But anyway, the last time I had someone to read it, she turned out to be an atheist. So it's kind of bad. So, but anyway, I Am Somebody is also one of those therapeutic poems that helps someone's self esteem. Okay, elements of poetry. Poetry is a universal language and is almost as ancient. So, uh, the primitive people used it before and they cultivated it. Uh, if you remember before, people like to um, talk in rhymes, but now they don't talk in rhymes, but rather they rap instead. So, so poems are very hard because, first of all, the proper choice of words and the grammar, and it also have to have denotative and symbolical, and it thirdly it has a limitation that is imposed by the structure and rhythm of sounds. But at the same time, all of this makes it, although it's very hard, it makes the poem beautiful and appreciative by the reader. So you have denotation and connotation. When you say denotation, it is actual meaning of the word derived from the dictionary. Home, for example, um, when you say denotative word home, um, is uh, is a place where one lives, while when you say connotation of home, it can mean warmth, comfort, security, love, and other forms. So, meaning, but denotation, it is the actual meaning, but connotation, it is the related meaning. So, for example, this one, unless an old one tries, there's always a wall. A wall here is not the actual wall, but a symbolical of the wall, or a symbolism of hindrance, obstruction that will lead, or the communication gap between the old and the young. And then you also have imagery. So, imagery may be defined as the representation of senses through language. So, images could be formed as we see, hear, taste, smell, or touch, and that the image here is an implied image and not the actual image. So, for example, this one, uh, George Bunau's Change is filled with poet's own imagery. Who wants to read this one? This passage only. Nobody? So things change. No longer do I. Recovering from the shock of a huge branch falling at my feet. No longer do I cower in fear. No longer run to my altar in the woods. The fire of prayer in my mouth. So um, the author imagines the fear before of falling and then recovers from the shock, and that how before, when you're little, you are scared of falling, but now you are not as you grow up. So ayun. And then you also have figurative language. Figurative language um, is very interesting. So, the most commonly used figurative language is the simile and the metaphor. When you say simile, there is a comparison between the two, but when you say simile, the the phrase would use like, as than, similar to, resemble, or seem. Pag metaphor naman, the comparison is implied. So it is substituted or identified with a literal term. So example for this one, metaphor, our man-child is wild, as tempest, as north wind, as jungle, as rapids, as tiger, as ponca. As all these are wild. Sorry, it's ano pala, simile. It's okay, Kyle. So if you could see here how the child of the man to the wildest stream compares the child to the animals. And then you also have a little phrase here by Emily Dixon, which says, I gave myself to him. I gave myself to him and took himself for pay. The solemn contract of a life was ratified this way. So, Emily Dickinson, this poem was like a metaphor for marriage, like how a sale contract could be like a marriage. And then you also have rhythm and meter in a poem. So remember your music, what is rhythm, and visual art pala that you have also have rhythm, and then meter in music. So ayun, meter, so it's always the same. So who wants to read Invictus? A part of the Invictus by William Ernest Henley. This phrase lang. Nobody. Kyle.
Okay, ma'am. Bawi ako, hindi ako nakapag-respond kanina.
Alright.
This one, ma'am, na yung Invictus, yung this ano lang.
Yes, this one.
Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I think whatever gods may be, for my unconquerable soul.
Okay. So if you could see how B and pole, me and B can rhyme, and soul and pole rhymes. So this doesn't have a meter, but this is style called free verse. And then this is another. What I am at any moment in the process of my becoming a person will be determined by the relation with those who love me, with those whom I love to refuse to love. So, on Being a Person by Laurie Howe in 1981. So, ayan. So, it doesn't have a rhyme or a meter. This one naman, I think it has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. Okay. Meron pala. Sorry. Meron pala siyang meter. And then, meaning and idea. The meaning of a poem is the experience it expresses. And then total, pero there are different kinds of meaning, ha? You have a total meaning and you have a prose meaning. So total meaning is the idea of a poem, which only part of the total it experiences and communicates. And then prose meaning, it does not necessarily give out the entire idea itself, but rather it could be a short description, a statement of an emotion, or a presentation of a human character, or a combination of these. So that is a difference. So that is the poem. And then we go on to the short story. Guys, you have English 1, 2, 3, right? So, and also literature. So I'm not going to discuss it in, very, a very detailed discussion, more on the elements lang. And then you also have elements of a short story. So there is no general elements for the whole, what is literature or what is literary, but rather each kind of literature has different kinds of elements. But for example, a short story has plot, character theme, symbol and irony, language and style. So, ayun, what is a plot? A plot is, for example, the arrangement of the action, where the action would refers to the imagined event or the happening or the series of the events or how the event played out um, in the story. And then you also have a character. What kind of story doesn't have a character? I don't know. But a character is more difficult than reading for a plot. Because a character has an attitude. It is most of the time short stories are focused and it involves in just one character. And you also have a theme. So the theme is the controlling idea or the central insight of the literary work. It is like the generalization about life or how it is being implied by the story. So basically, the theme is like the central insight, the one that explains the greatest number of elements in the story. So, for example, it could be like Halloween, Christmas, that could be a theme. So, it's like unifying generalization about what is happening in the story. And then a theme naman pero a theme if you compare it to the uh, painting, sculpture, and music, the theme in ano tawag dito? In literature is subject naman in painting, sculpture, and music. And then you also have symbol and irony. So the literary symbol is something that means much more what it is. It can be an object, a person, a situation, an action, or some other item that has literal meaning in the story, but suggest or represent other meanings as well. So you have different kinds of irony. For example, it is a contrast in one way, or it could also mock the term. You could have a verbal irony, which means na um, when you say it, it is not what you really mean to say. For example, it is really so cold, but the truth it is hot. So that is verbal irony. And dramatic irony is the contrast between what a character says and what the reader knows to be true. For example, the character would say, I hate him. For example, it's a love story. The characters say, I hate him, I'm very angry at him, and blah, 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 blah. Pero the truth is, the reader knows that uh, this person or this character actually loves the other person. So that is the dramatic irony. And then there is also an ironic situation where it could be the discrepancy between appearance and reality, between what is expectation and fulfillment, and between what is said and what is seen appropriate. So there are a lot of irony in situations. For example, not just in a short story, but also in real life. For example, um, I can't think of another one, but okay. When you go to when you're running for office, you actually involve yourself in presidential debate. Just like, for example, you're looking for a job, and then you go and you need to go to an interview. But the ironic in this situation is that one presidential candidate um, does not attend the interview or the debate. So that's the ironic situation. So again, that is the irony of the situation. Same thing can also be included in literature and other things. So again, and then language and style refers to the idiom use and how it is used. So style could be language could be in Filipino, in English. If you know Cebuano, it could be Cebuano, Bicol, Locano, and such and other things. And style, on the other hand, can refer to a precise use of language that could be both literary and figuratively. So, for example, a style would be like um, the person, the 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 character is like talking in a certain slang, for example, or there is there could be different kinds of style, like how you write it. Like for example, um, the short story um, can have like uh, a very dark plot, and then suddenly it becomes high. That could be dark plot, and suddenly it becomes very light, or like how the person is saying in, or the characters is talking. It could be in a little slang or in a mixed language, for example. That could be another style. So ayan. So thank you for listening. So how are you guys?
Okay pa, ma'am.
Okay pa naman po.
Buhay pa kayo? Do you have any questions?
None po.
So last. So before you play the videos next week, I just want to discuss with you this one. So another kind of combination is, or another kind of art form is the performance art. Do you know? Does anyone have any idea what a performance art is?
Theater, ma'am.
Yes, theater. And what else? So, uh, a performance art could be a combination of visual art, um, music, literature. So it's a combination of everything. So that's why it's called combination. So, but what is the difference between a performance art and exhibitionism? What do you think? Do you know what exhibitionism is, guys? No? Anyway, exhibitionism is, yes, Joaquin.
Exhibitionism is an extravagant behavior that is intended to attract attention to oneself or the audience.
Just very good looking. Thank you. Yes, nabubulol talaga ako today. Sorry. Exhibitionism. Exhibitionism. Sorry, bulol talaga ako ever since, but I am trying. Exhibitionism refers to um, showing or asking for attention, showing yourself to seek for attention. It is like performance art, but instead of performance art, it is exhibitionism is different. But one could be have an exhibition. One could be an exhibitionist also while doing a performance art. So I'm going to uh, uh, discuss definition, history, and artist influence. Yeah. So definition. Um, Performance art are works of art that are created through actions performed by the artist or other participants, which may be live or recorded, spontaneous, or scripted. So, performance art could be film, video, photography, installation based artworks through which action through with the action of artists, performers, or the audience conveyed. So it is like art, pero you engage directly to people, and then it also is very specific, space specific, and identity politics. It also has identity politics. And one thing for a performance art is the medium of the artist is himself or herself. So with visual art, you have a medium that is can be canvas, paint, right? Sculpture, you could have like a clay, for example, marble, stone, wood. With music naman, you have your melody, right? And then in literature, you have your um, words, language, and stuff, and paper or whatever. And then, but in performance art, the artist uses himself or herself as the medium to convey the message. Performance is not the medium, but rather the artist himself is the medium. The artist creates art using him or herself. So that is how he or she produces the artworks. So history, um, performance art came from the happenings. So this was a stage, not really a stage, parang impromptu na event. And then it gave rise to the conceptual art, and this became a new form of contemporary art. And then in 1960s and 1970s, the avant-garde came to rise, and it also continued happening. And then it gave, uh, and then it became uh, more. It happened more, or it became more uh, embraced, uh, more relevant during the postmodern because of the postmodern artists, because of the futurism, Dada, surrealist automatism, Nouveau realism, Fluxus, Neo-Dada, body art, and feminist art. Assemblage or installation, it is not doing an assemblage or an installation is not considered as a performance art, but rather watching the artist build assemblage or installation would be a performance art. The product of parang doing an installation or the assemblage or the installation is not the performance art, but rather if you're watching the artist doing assemblage or an installation, that could be considered as a performance art. So performance artists could incorporate any discipline or medium into their art. This could include dance, music, recitation, mime, fashion, theatrical design, film, juggling, contortionism, escapology, installation, body and computer art, painting, drawing, and sculpture. So that's it. Do you have any questions?
None, ma'am. Wala naman po.
So I'm going to give you an example. Is everyone 18 here? Eighteen ba lahat?
Yes, ma'am, I think. Unless hindi pa 18 si Jovi. I think 18 na si Jovi.
Sino bang 18 dito? Below 18 dito? Meron? Sino?
14 days until my birthday, ma'am.
Ha?
Pasok
March
na yan,
16
pasok
akong
na
birthday,
yan.
ma'am. Technically still.
Pasok na yan.
2 weeks na lang eh.
These are wooden cubes by the...
Okay, I'm going to play you a video. This is not... No.
Julian, takip ka isang mata. Char.
It's okay. I'm not going to play anything that... Sakit isang mata. Sakit buong mata, tapos may peekaboo na lang. Joke lang. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Kita po.
These are wooden cubes by the artist Rashid Areen. Now let's add a live element. Suddenly the structure becomes animated, producing unsettling and shifting interactions between the artwork, the space, and the participant. When this happens, we say the work has a performative aspect. This is a film about the mercurial, unpredictable, and unsettling world of performance and the performative, and how these terms have come to reframe our understanding of art. We start in the 1960s, at a time when some artists were breaking down the traditional boundaries between different media and raising questions about what art could and should be. These artists wanted to make life's unpredictable and changing nature the subject and material of the work. They believed that art which incorporated a life element reflected the modern condition better than a static painting or sculpture. They also wanted to make art that could not be easily bought or sold. The term performance came to define an artwork that had a live element and was witnessed by an audience. But as performance took root, people began to see that paintings and sculptures could have performative aspects too, like Jackson Pollock's action paintings, and Rashid Areen's cubes. In fact, it seemed that much of contemporary art had a performative aspect. Soon people were not asking what is performance, they were asking what isn't performance. But here's the thing. Performance is not a medium, not like painting and sculpture. It's not about what it is made of. It is a tool used by artists to raise questions about how art relates to us and the wider social world. And while it often involves an element of live action or an audience, it doesn't necessarily have to. It can just as easily ask those questions through a photograph or a document that have performative aspects. This photograph depicts the artist Mona Hatoum performing an action in which she walked barefoot through the streets of Brixton, dragging behind her a pair of Doc Martens boots attached to her ankles. The theme the artist was raising through performance, about the vulnerability of the marginalized to instruments of surveillance and state control, is conveyed with a static image. This document outlines a concept called the Flux Olympiad. It was conceived by the artist George Maciunas. He wanted to instill art into every part of life, even sport. But he was also subversive. So he invented games like football on stilts and a flipper race. He died in 1978 without ever realizing the work. But in 2008, 30 years after his death, Tate used the artist's instructions as a score to stage the Flux Olympiad. Sometimes it takes that long for life to catch up with art. Performance operates in the gap between art and life, connecting us to both. It is a living, shape-shifting, often hard-to-define entity that is there to make sense of our changing world and to include us into art's frame. It is why Robert Rauschenberg described it as art that refuses to settle.
Do you have any questions? So last.
None.
So that was performance art. So if you could see there how art could be how people use their art, their body as art. And then I'm going to play
In an age of global strife and climate change, I'm here to answer the all-important question. Why is sex so damn good? If you're laughing, you know what I mean. Now, before we get to that answer, let me tell you about Chris Hosmer. Chris is a great friend of mine from my university days, but secretly, I hate him. Here's why. Back in university, we had a quick project to design some solar-powered clocks. Here's my clock. It uses something called the dwarf sunflower, which grows to about 12 inches in height. Now, as you know, sunflowers track the sun during the course of the day. So, in the morning, you see which direction the sunflower is facing, and you mark it on the blank area in the base. At noon, you mark the change position of the sunflower, and in the evening, again. And that's your clock. Now, I know my...
So before I continue this this video, I just want to say that this video is not about performance art, but rather it is about the five senses, using five senses for a design. And this is one of the principles or theories on why people like, or people prefers the television, music videos. People want art that interacts with or arts that, you know, moving and stuff, because of the five senses. So here, I'm going to play the video now.
Clock doesn't tell you the exact time, but it does give you a general idea using a flower. So, in my completely unbiased, subjective opinion, it's brilliant. However, here's Chris's clock. It's 5 magnifying glasses with a shot glass under each one. In each shot glass is a different scented oil. In the morning, the sunlight will shine down on the first magnifying glass, focusing a beam of light on the shot glass underneath. This will warm up the scented oil inside, and a particular smell will be emitted. A couple of hours later, the sun will shine on the next magnifying glass, and a different smell will be emitted. So during the course of the day, 5 different smells are dispersed throughout that environment. Anyone living in that house can tell the time just by the smell. You can see why I hate Chris. I thought my idea was pretty good, but his idea is genius. And at the time, I knew his idea was better than mine, but I just couldn't explain why. One thing you have to know about me is I hate to lose. This problem's been bugging me for well over a decade. All right, let's get back to the question of why sex is so good. Many years after the solar-powered clocks project, a young lady I knew suggested maybe sex is so good because of the 5 senses. And when she said this, I had an epiphany. So I decided to evaluate different experiences I had in my life from the point of view of the 5 senses. To do this, I devised something called the 5 senses graph. Along the y-axis, you have a scale from 0 to 10, and along the x-axis, you have, of course, the 5 senses. Anytime I had a memorable experience in my life, I would record it on this graph like a 5 senses diary. Here's a quick video to show you how it works.
Hey, my name's Shinto, and today I'm going to show you what riding motorbikes is like from the point of view of the 5 senses. Oi! This is Demba, custom bike designer.
And that's how the 5 senses graph works. Now, for a period of 3 years, I gathered data, not just me, but also some of my friends. And I used to teach in university, so I asked my students to do this as well. So here are some other results. The first is for instant noodles. Now, obviously, taste and smell are quite high, but notice sound is at 3. Many people told me a big part of the noodle eating experience is the slurping noise. You know. Needless to say, I no longer dine with these people. Okay, next, clubbing. Okay, here what I found interesting was that taste is at 4, and many respondents told me it's because of the taste of drinks, but also in some cases, kissing is a big part of the clubbing experience. These people I still do hang out with. All right, and smoking. Okay, here I found touch is at 4, and one of the reasons is that smokers told me the sensation of holding a cigarette and bringing it up to your lips is a big part of the smoking experience, which shows it's kind of scary to think how well cigarettes are designed by the manufacturers. Okay, now what would the perfect experience look like on the 5 senses graph? It would, of course, be a horizontal line along the top. Now, you can see not even an intense an experience as riding a motorbike comes close. In fact, in the years that I gathered data, only one experience came close to being the perfect one. That is, of course, sex. Great sex. Respondents said that great sex hits all of the 5 senses at an extreme level. Here I'll quote one of my students who said, "Sex is so good, it's good even when it's bad." So, the 5 senses theory does help explain why sex is so good. Now, in the middle of all this 5 senses work, I suddenly remembered the solar-powered clocks project from my youth. And I realized this theory also explains why Chris's clock is so much better than mine. You see, my clock only focuses on sight and a little bit of touch. Here's Chris's clock. It's the first clock ever that uses smell to tell the time. In fact, in terms of the 5 senses, Chris's clock is a revolution. And that's what this theory taught me about my field. You see, up till now, us designers, we've mainly focused on making things look very pretty and a little bit of touch, which means we've ignored the other 3 senses. Chris's clock shows us that even raising just one of those other senses can make for a brilliant product. So what if we started using the 5 senses theory in all of our designs? Here's 3 quick ideas I came up with. This is an iron, for your clothes, to which I added a spraying mechanism. So you fill up the vial with your favorite scent, and your clothes will smell nicer, but hopefully should also make the ironing experience more enjoyable. We could call this the perfumator. All right, next. So I brush my teeth twice a day. And what if we had a toothbrush that tastes like candy? And when the taste of candy ran out, you'd know it's time to change a toothbrush. Finally, I have a thing for the keys on a flute or a clarinet. It's not just the way they look, but I love the way they feel when you press down on them. Now, I don't play the flute or the clarinet, so I decided to combine these keys with an instrument I do play, the television remote control. Okay. Now, when we look at these 3 ideas together, you'll notice that the 5 senses theory doesn't only change the way we use these products, but also the way they look. So, in conclusion, I found the 5 senses theory to be a very useful tool in evaluating different experiences in my life, and then taking those best experiences and hopefully incorporating them into my designs. Now, I realize the 5 senses isn't the only thing that makes life interesting. There's also the 6 emotions and that elusive actor. Maybe that could be the topic of my next talk. Until then, please have fun using the 5 senses in your own lives and your own designs. Oh, one last thing before I leave. Here's the experience you all have while listening to the TED Talks. However, it would be better if we could boost up a couple of the other senses, like smell and taste. And the best way to do that is with brie candy. You guys ready? All right.
So, what have you learned? It's very good, right? So, this is why televisions are better, are actually more preferred than reading a book, for example, or how what else? Eating is enjoyable because it does not only use eyes, taste, but you also use eyes. You also have fingers. You also have smell. So, ayan. So, if you're going to make art in the future or make a plate, you could use the five senses theory in making your plate. So, again. So, okay, guys, do you have any more questions? Is everything clear?
Clear, ma'am. Wala naman.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so for the next meeting, we won't be having for March 9, we won't be meeting, and March 9 would be used for you to, would be time for you to make your plate. And then your plate would be, wait lang, elements plate, due date would be on March 16. All right. So tomorrow, next on March, so in March 9, you're going to be watching the videos. You could watch videos in, wait lang, combined arts. Let me show you the, ano, the, you could here combined arts, you could watch these videos. So we already have watched this design for all senses, but you could also watch this the three ways that could down and Don Norman. And you could also watch this on performance art. We already watched this, but and you could watch this too. And the 18, the R18 is this one, Paulo Dumlao. So it has nudity in it. So please, if you don't, and if you're very sensitive to nudity or to self-harm, if you have any mental issues, do not do not watch it. But I made this with a friend. I was the one who edited and video, but this is mental health performance art. This was made in here in the Philippines in Singing Kamalig Art Gallery, and it is about how uh, how the 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 positive words are um, are being erased because of the negative feedbacks or because of the pain you got from negative things. So, ayun. But okay, again, it has nudity in it. So if you are not very comfortable with watching it, do not watch it. All right. Uh, okay, but it's covered naman. It's censored. So, all right. Thank you, class, for coming in. Class dismissed.
Bye. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Have a
you
good
po,
weekend,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Stay safe
Thank
po.
you.
Good week.
Bye bye.